Why I don't want a Buffy reboot. Hello and welcome to this week's video. And be warned, this might turn into a bit of a rant. I have to be honest, I don't want a Buffy reboot. I don't want the Buffy reboot that we've all been hearing about. Honestly, I've lived in dread for probably the last 5 or so years that they were going to do this to Buffy, and my heart sank when they announced it. And I'm going to explain to you why, because, just in case anybody doesn't know, I'm a huge Buffy fan. Buffy's probably my second favourite show of all time, after classic Doctor Who. Not even second favourite genre show, second favourite show. Now, I was there for like episode 1 when it first showed in Australia in like late 1997. Now, I didn't like the movie. I'd seen the movie years before and I thought it was crap, frankly. Um, I was vaguely aware that there was a series, but at that point, none of the genre magazines had really picked up on it. It had like Cult Times or TV Zone or whatever, had done like, about 5 lines on the corner in the news section about a Buffy TV series. And that was about all I knew about it. They hadn't, at that point, really started covering it. So I had no idea whether it was supposed to be good or whether it was supposed to be crap or anything. But it was a new genre show. So I was thoroughly prepared to, give it a try. And I still remember that it aired like the first episode, which was, Welcome to the Hellmouth, like part 1 of the 2-part premiere. It was on like the same night as News Radio, which at that point had already become one of my favourite shows. So I kind of taped Buffy to watch later because I had no particular expectation that it was going to be good. I was willing to give it a shot, but I was quite prepared to turn it off and think it was crap. And I watched it the following afternoon, and I kind of liked it. I didn't immediately fall madly in love with it, but I liked it, and I instantly liked, the core characters. Certainly Buffy, Xander, Willow, and Giles. I instantly kind of connected with them. So I was, I wanted to continue watching it, and I think it was about the time, I've said this before, probably about the time of the puppet show. I'd realized I'd fallen in love with that show, and I watched all of Buffy, all of Angel. I, I bought the Buffy VHSs, and then about 6 months later, I bought them all again on DVD. Um, and I loved that show all the way through. And like I said, it's my second favorite show of all time after original Doctor Who. Now, over the years, I've kind of slightly lessened on the latter 2 seasons a little bit, especially season 7. Uh, I do think season 6 has some really good episodes. Season 7, I find deeply unsatisfying, and there is a part of me that kind of thinks Joss Whedon should have been allowed to end it with the gift, because I think it would have been absolutely perfect if they'd done that. I kind of find that, even though I do like a lot of 6, I find 7 very unsatisfying. That being said, even that's kind of comparing it to itself in a way. Like comparing it to anything made nowadays, season 7 is light years ahead of all of them. So I can't really bitch too much. So when I say quite flatly, I don't want a Buffy reboot, that comes from a place of loving the original series. Love Angel slightly less, still like it a great deal. It's still probably in like top 5 of at least favorite genre shows. But Buffy was always my favorite and still is. And I don't want it. I don't want a reboot. And I think it sounds like a terrible idea. And there's a number of reasons for this. For one, it's just too late. It's over 20 years. I'm sorry, I really am, but the actors are all too old. They're too old to play these characters now. Who wants to see that? It's kind of depressing. I mean, Giles old man now. Look, I saw Anthony Head a couple of years ago on some British drama that was on Netflix or whatever. I was like, Jesus, he's got old. And I know we all do. But it's like there comes a point where it's like it's been too long. You add to that the fact that there are other issues. Michelle Trachtenberg's dead. I mean, that was a real shock and kick in the teeth last year. I mean, I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card. I mean, I've learned since that she was, she'd had a liver transplant and had some health problems. I didn't even know that at the time. I remember scrolling up on YouTube, and I think it was George Alexander put a community post. R.I.P. Michelle Trachtenberg. And I kind of went back and thought, what the fuck? That's got to be a joke, surely. What? No, I don't think anyone has that on their bingo card. I mean, let's be honest. Like I said, it's been well over 20 years now, and you come to a point, unfortunately, where cast members of shows that are 20 plus years old start dying off. But I don't think anybody expected it to be Michelle Trachtenberg. I sure bloody hell didn't. What a shocker! Add to that other issues. I know that Nicholas Brendan is persona non grata for whatever reasons are going on in his personal life and all of that shit. And now we have this weird hate movement in Buffy fandom against Xander as well, which I just find obnoxious in the extreme. These are the kind of people that are perfectly fine with Angel and Spike, both having previously been serial rapist murderers of the worst kind. But a guy dares to have, but a normal guy dares to have thoughts, opinions, needs, and feelings of his own. It's, how dare you? How dare you? We hate him. Shut up, you fucking weirdos. Yes, you. If you're hearing this and you're getting mad at me, you're exactly the kind of person I want to say that to, because you're a twat. I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, any Buffy fan who dislikes Xander is not a fucking Buffy fan at all. Up yours. Still one of my favourite characters. And the thought of what these clowns that have taken over the show now would do to him really, really, really makes me want to vomit. And that leads us neatly on to the second reason that I don't want this show back. It's not being made by anybody who had anything to do with the original series being good. And I'm sorry, but the elephant in the room, that was Joss Whedon, dude. There's a reason the movie sucked. I know there's been a revisionist movement in recent years to say, oh, the movie's actually not that bad, it's really good. No, it isn't. It was bloody awful then, and it's still bloody awful now. I'm sorry. And the reason it was bloody awful is that they rewrote Joss's original bloody script, basically kept him out of doing anything and just turned it into a fucking joke. The reason Buffy and Angel were bloody good is Joss Whedon. And that also comes down to the people he hired, the other writers, etc., etc. But again, it's not to put too fine a point on it that Buffy did start to deteriorate ever so slightly in those last couple of seasons after Joss Whedon was somewhat less involved. And they Me Too'd him a few years ago, and now he's not involved at all. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised they've even been allowed to do it, because as I understood it from back in the original series, they didn't expect Joss Whedon to do the show. They were contractually obliged to ask him if he wanted to do it, but they didn't expect him to do it because he was kind of riding high, rewriting Hollywood movies at the time, and they didn't expect him to be interested. And he was, simply because they'd screwed up his original script for the movie so badly, and he wanted to do it right. So I thought they had to ask Joss Whedon, so maybe he's sold it off entirely. I have no idea. I still don't know how they've got the rights to do that without him being involved. And it's not just not him, nobody else from the creative side of that show has anything to do with this new version. I find this deeply, deeply disturbing and kind of ethically dubious. We now have an actress. No offense, Sarah Michelle Gellar, but I'm not exactly sure what qualifies her to take over the show. And some other woman who had some feminist who had nothing to do with the original show either. This does not breed confidence. No. Buffy without Joss Whedon and the people he selected, this seems like a really shit idea. I'm sorry. But it really does. And then you come to the third reason why I think this is a terrible idea. I never wanted it, and I still don't. And nothing I've heard about this new show has convinced me this is anything other than a terrible idea that is probably going to retroactively crap on the original as well. I can't think of one reboot in the last 20 odd years that has actually been a good idea. They have all sucked to various degrees. Now, on the lower end of the suckage scale, you have something like Red Dwarf, which, the Dave Reboot revival series, it wasn't terrible. It didn't shit on the show and the characters, etc. But at the same time, I don't really think any of them were really that good. And to be fair, of the original BBC run, the last two seasons weren't that great either. Really, Red Dwarf, the most iconic episodes to me and the best were the first 6 seasons. And the reboot, I watched them all. I bought them all on DVD. I rarely rewatch them because I don't find them that funny. And it all just feels a bit sad and tired. And that's the that's the lower end of the scale. That's the lower end of the reboot scale. The rest, everything else, don't even get me started on Roseanne or the Connors and that shit. And honestly, that's not even to do with firing her. I thought the revival was shit even when she was still in it the first season. I really hated what they did to. I really hated what they did to Darlene and David for starters. And again, everybody's just so bloody much older that it seems so fucking depressing. And every other reboot is rubbish. The X-Files, it was too late. Even when it was the same bloody people in charge, and they literally had everybody back, even on the bloody crew, basically. And I still thought the revival was god awful because it was too late. It was too late. Even with all the same people, you can't. It's a different time. You can't capture that same light in a bottle. And I mean, you have the ultimate crap reboot in Doctor Who, obviously. And I have to say, again, my Twin Peaks is another one. My God, that bloody one was awful. Absolutely awful. The epitome of being way too fucking late. Way too late, with half the cast dead or retired. And the creative team that didn't even, whoever it was, I thought it was David Lynch entirely, but I've heard some people say it was Mark Lynch was mostly responsible for the scripts. Mark Frost, I mean. I don't know, but whatever that was, it bore very little resemblance to the show that I loved. And I thought it was absolute incoherent, incomprehensible garbage. Sorry if you loved The Return. I thought it was absolute shit. And Doctor Who is a good example of how of the malaise. Because when that show came back, I was ecstatic. I was ecstatic to have it back. I had a few problems. I had a few problems in the first season, not too many. But again, it was mostly just kind of optimism and happiness and, oh, it's back. Oh, it's back. And by 2006, I was starting to go, really? And of course, I packed it up entirely in 2017 because it just lost the plot entirely. I mean, look at the last 2 years. I don't know what the hell that thing that was parading around on our screens was the last few years, but it sure as shit wasn't Doctor Who. And there again is the difference. When they announced Doctor Who was coming back 20 years ago, 22, 23 years ago, I was all in, excited and happy. Oh, my favourite show's coming back. And ever since then, with every subsequent bloody revival, I've just been, no, why? They'll screw it up. It's too late. And every single time, I've been proven right. I'm sorry. It all sucked so badly. I just didn't want them to do it to Buffy. Because like I said, I love Buffy. It's my second favourite show of all time. And they're gonna fuck it up. I'm sorry. There's just nothing about this that looks or sounds appealing. It's too bloody late. And nobody involved in the creative side, particularly the one man who was the major force as to why that was show, is involved in this. And again, every single reboot in the last 20 odd years of every show I've bloody loved has been at best, and at worst, just absolute excrement. I'm sorry, but I don't want a Buffy reboot. I never wanted it. Like I said, for 5 or so years, I was like, oh God, please don't tell me they're going to do one. It's like the last thing standing that they haven't wrecked. And they're coming along with their wrecking ball. Again, some people may say I'm too cynical, I'm too jaded, but I just don't see any way in which this is going to be good. I really don't. Nothing about it seems appealing. In all honesty, I'd actually rather them do a clean reboot. Like, do a complete reboot. Recast Buffy, recast Xander, Giles, Willow, etc. Start in high school and just do it again. Because if that's shit, which it probably would be, at least it doesn't retroactively crap on the original. In fact, a really bad true reboot like that just makes people appreciate the original more. But when they do something like this, a revival / reboot, the choices they make and what they do, they're inevitably going to reflect badly on the original show. I mean, look at Doctor Who. There are many Doctor Who fans who can't even watch the original show anymore. That they've been fans of for decades because of how badly it's been defecated on by today's supposed talents. Talent has nothing to do with any of it, of course. And I don't want that to happen to Buffy, but I think it's absolutely bloody inevitable. The good news is, of course, if it ever comes to pass, and apparently there has been some problems with it. Then apparently the network, the streaming site, whatever it is, not too happy with the pilot and has ordered reshoots and reworking if they want it to go to a series. I hope they don't commission it. I'm sorry. And when you look at some of the shit that goes on streaming these days, good God, if a streaming site is going, we don't think much of that. That's a bad sign. I mean, by the time this video comes out, maybe there'll have been announcements and this will be old hat, because I'm recording this probably 5 weeks before it's going to go out. But I'm sorry. I know I've seen some people squeal enthusiastically, but I just don't think they get it. I just don't think they appreciate just how impossible it is to capture that lightning in a bottle again. It's impossible, even with all the creative people that made the original what it was, let alone without them giving their interpretation of it. Oh dear God, no. Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, that's it. Rant over. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while because, like I said, I lived in dread of Buffy getting a reboot for years, and I was hoping that Joss Whedon clause that presumably existed back in the 90s was still a case. I don't know. Maybe it isn't, or maybe he just said no, I don't want anything to do with it, or sold the rights or whatever. I have no idea what went on. Very odd. But apparently that wasn't true, and when they announced it, my heart just sank. I'm sorry, it's too bloody late. And those are the 3 major reasons I don't want a Buffy reboot. And again, since it's on a streaming site, if it ever goes to it, probably not going to watch it anyway, because don't really do streaming. Certainly unless absolutely everybody in the universe says it's brilliant and the trailers and clips make it look absolutely... And I really, really, really don't think that's going to happen. I think a lot of people are going to be incredibly disappointed if it ever comes out, which I kind of hope it gets buried, but... Anyway, that's why I don't want a Buffy reboot.